In today's Elden Ring video, we're going to take a look at two absolutely crazy rune farming methods that will give you over 1 million runes per run, assuming that you're doing it properly. And I will also show you another one that is completely AFK. You can leave it overnight and wake up with hundreds of thousands of runes without doing anything. So let's begin. Now, the first farming method will be located right here in the Deeproot depths. I'm going to show you how to reach that in just a little bit, but essentially we are going to farm these statue-looking monsters. It takes about 30 seconds to clear all three of them really close to a nearby site of grace, and they all drop about 3,500 runes without having any buffs or any talismans activated. If you also activate those, you're gonna get about like 5,400 for each one of them, so that's anywhere between like 12,000 runes all the way up to 15,000 plus for just 30 seconds. Now, to even reach this location in the first place, you have to be a bit more progressed in the main game, and specifically I recommend having at least about level 55 and 60, and also progress in the main story until you have reached and defeated Radahn. Reason being is because he is going to open up that Necron Eternal City area that you're going to need to access first before you even reach the Deeproot depths. So that's what I recommend doing. Once you have cleared out Radahn, you're going to want to head over back here to Mistwood and make your way down into Necron, the Eternal City, and make your way all the way up until this waypoint right here called the Ancestral Woods. If you don't know how to reach this place, it's quite simple. You can even find a few guides online pointing you to this location. It's basically the same one that Rena requires you to visit if you want to get her Snow Witch set that I already covered in yesterday's video, so you can find a link down below. But essentially what you're gonna want to do is from this point of interest, this site of grace at the Ancestral Woods, is instead of going to the Rena quest line, you're going to want to head up a little bit west, opposite of that direction. Go past the singing enemy right here, go past these woods and even these structures, and you will know if you're in the correct location if you start seeing some of these jellyfish at the edge of this kind of like cliff over here. You're gonna want to jump down because you're gonna want to reach the nearby aqueduct inside of this cave, so to speak, so also activate the set of grace nearby. And from this point on, simply make your way through the aqueduct. This is what you're going to want to do in this case, and also be careful not to fall down like how I almost did a few moments ago. Make your way through the sewers, make your way right here onto the right side until you reach this staircase leading to a huge kind of like waterfall area. Now, in this location you will have to fight a couple of bosses, which is why I recommended that level 60 to have before that, or maybe at the very least a pretty decent build, because they are quite tough. And once you're done with those bosses, you're going to be able to reach this location with what seems to be a coffin. Interacting with it will bring you to the final area where we will farm into, as I've said, and that's going to be this one with the Deeproot depths right here. Now, from this point on, just make your way through these vines onto the other side, on the second side of grace, and finally onto the final side of grace, which is going to be located right here across the roots. That's how it's even called. And this is the location we're gonna farm into. Essentially, on top of these vines, there's going to be a first one right here that you can go ahead and defeat right away. I recommend having a pretty decent upgraded weapon, or maybe a good build to take them down, and they will give you about 3,500 runes without having any buffs applied. The second one is going to be just here by the building, and then the third and final one will be at the top of the same tower. So take up the vine, go here onto the side, then onto the left, and you're gonna be able to take them down quite easily. Now, that was all nice, but you can actually improve that farm by at least about 50%, and one of the items that will help you with that is a talisman called the Gold Scarab. I will show you how to get that in just a little bit, but essentially just going over a quick run right here, you can now see that the same enemies will be dropping way more, in this case about 1,000 more compared to previously. So that's quite a hefty sum for about like just 40 seconds of a really unoptimized run, and we're gonna optimize that in just a little bit. This brings us to the items that will help you to double that, and the first one is going to be the Gold Scarab Talisman. You find it at the abandoned cave here in Caelid, and you can access it really easily from the smoldering wall, pretty close to the swamp area. Simply follow the wall up until here at the end, where you will see kind of like a platform, and then you can jump on some of these roots all the way down to this cave and then activate the side of Grace over there, because this is going to be a very challenging kind of cave, not because there's tough enemies, but because there's rot everywhere. Luckily, only the first part of the cave is more difficult, especially this one right here, which is why I recommend maybe getting something like the clean rot set that has a lot of resistances. I also covered it in a previous video, and you can pretty much do like this backstabbing sort of dodge to like go away from all of these damage type and sources from the ground. Eventually, you're going to reach the bottom of the cave with the two bosses inside of it. These knights are quite aggressive, but playing aggressive can also be like beneficial to you, and defeating them will give you the gold scarab. Now there is a final item that you will want to further buff this to even crazier levels, and that's going to be the gold pickled foul foot. The earliest you can find is pretty close to the starting area, all the way to the Church of Alice. So just go over here, then go to the west by the beach side, and onto the side of the beach pretty much after you encounter a nearby vendor, you are going to get this pickled foot from one of these corpses, a golden one that further buffs your rune gain. And if you use both the golden scarab as well as the pickled foot, you now get 5,400 and about like 13 to 17 runes every single kill that you perform. Now if you want to make this even better and navigate the vines a little bit easier, what I recommend is like this. So after doing the first kill, head over back and don't turn, but instead jump with your horse to the right side, and then jump again with a double jump onto the right side again so you can reach the building, and then go ahead and defeat the second enemy. From this point on, it's quite easy to reach the next vine. If you just like do a double jump, you are going to reach to that, but try to like turn your horse a bit to the side to reach the vine, and just make your way to the top to defeat the final one. And from here on, just teleport back at the side of Grace, repeat the process, and if you were to do a really optimized run, it would take you about like 35 seconds on average, which would yield you between 12 to 16,000 plus runes, depending if you have that pickled foot or not. And even if you don't, that's at least like 25k runes per minute, which is way better than running from any balls in the game or just doing anything that's too tedious. At least you're doing something and not like brain dead farming stuff that makes no sense. And this of course brings us to a final method that is actually completely AFK, and if you leave it overnight, you can wake up with hundreds of thousands of more runes to further invest into your character. And that's going to be something that again you have to defeat Radahn, because you're going to access that area from his battlefield right here southeast of Caelid. So essentially, after you have defeated Radahn, you're going to open up his like teleport point right here, and from the same beach slash battlefield location you will want to head over north of it. Right here at the edge of the zone, you're going to notice that there's a catacomb, so to speak, or well, in this case it's called the War Dead Catacombs, and this is a location where you will encounter a bunch of high-end enemies that are fighting each other. So this is basically what you will be doing. You will take advantage of the fact that they each kill themselves, and this will all transport all of those runes to you. Now in order to make this even better, what you will want to do is to actually head over right here to the left side just before reaching the rot area to cause other NPCs to spawn at the same time, and this will cause most of the enemies to just jump down into the rot and start fighting each other as well as the rot, which means they will die way quicker. And as you can see, they again can give you thousands upon thousands of runes extremely easily. It can be anywhere between 1200 all the way up to almost 4000, which is quite huge, and again that scarab will help you quite a bit. Now if you leave this overnight, what I recommend doing is to head over to this upper section really close to that site of Grace, just so that you don't accidentally aggro any of these enemies. And by the way, on the same note, I will give a huge shout out to this YouTuber right here, as they were the ones with the method of avoiding the combat and also fighting this location, so check the link to that video too. But as I've said, if you stay into that location and like don't do anything, you can see all of these enemies dying on your map even if they are behind walls. And leaving this overnight again will give you hundreds of thousands of runes once you come back without doing anything. But yeah, this is pretty much it with the video. Let me know down below how it works for you, and of course I also want to give a huge like thank you to everybody who's been so supportive for the channel for the past few weeks, and I can't be more grateful for that. Of course, if you're new here and want to like just see more Elden Ring content, subscribe to the channel activate that notification bell. We're trying to reach 400k subs by the end of 2022, and it looks like it's more possible by the minute thanks to the support that you guys are showing. So thank you so much again, and I'll see you guys next time.